Hey guys, how's it going? I wanted to make a video on these tires in case you guys are looking at 27 850 14s for your bus. There's a lot of guys going with these and maybe you don't know about them. One of the things people always wonder, do they rub? And the answer is no. And I think that depends on what year it's on. Again, this is a short lip, so this is a 66. The earlier ones I think had a longer lip. It may rub when you have a full lock steering situation and you go over a bump on those. But the first thing is, no, they don't rub. And so that question's answered. The other things is how do they drive and are they noisy? I've talked to guys with the BF Goodrich, they say no noise. I've talked to guys with the General Grabbers. They said they don't have any noise either. But if you're really concerned about that, they have these right here, which are highway tread. A little hard to find. This is actually not quite highway tread. It's actually a not all-terrain. Mud terrain tires you might have noise with. All-terrain typically not. These are mud and snow tires. So they are still pretty grippy, but they are super smooth. There's no none of that kind of thing. Now there's some upsides and some downsides to these, so I'm going to go over those. The upside is that you have a taller tire, so that's going to give you a taller gear ratio. So if you have a stock transmission on your bus, one of the best things you can go is get the tallest tire you can get. These are actually taller than the 205 75 14 that I normally use. So they're about, I don't know, an inch, half an inch or so taller than those. And so you get a little bit better gear ratio with them. So I have 344 gears in this. The stock gear ratios are 412. So I have a lot taller gear. So I have 344s. They also have a 388 set you can get in your trans. So these will work with 388s, 344s, as long as you don't have the 82 fourth. If you have an 82 fourth, it's going to put your RPMs down probably a little too low on the freeway with these tall tires. So they work with the other transmission gearing, and it works pretty well. It definitely made it a little quieter inside the bus, but the engine RPMs are still adequate for air cooling the engine. So inside I could actually hear my music a little bit where I can't normally. I have like a little, I don't have a radio, but I bring a Bluetooth speaker with me and I can actually hear it a little bit. Normally I can't hear it at all. All I can hear is just either bass noise or something, and I can't really hear the music. So with these I was able to actually hear the music, which is nice. A little bit. It's not, you can just get you something to listen to while you're driving. I'm always listening to the engine. I don't turn my music up very loud because I really want to hear the engine. Because there's always concern about air-cooled engines. You should be listening to them much more than you listen to music in your car. Another benefit for these taller tires is they roll over things a little bit easier. So if you have like potholes in the roads, or the roads are kind of rough and beat up where you live, and of course they are all over in California, because we're supposed to have money from a gas tax that they charge us for to pay for that, and of course they don't do that. They never do what they do with the tax dollars, guys. If you just wondered, they don't do what they say they're going to do. So anyway, if you got bumps in your roads, these things help roll over those bumps a lot better. So that helps a lot with that. If you just kind of think of it as a taller tire will help roll over something, where if it's small, like the old skateboard wheel, you hit those little tiny rocks like over here, and your skateboard wheel stops. Where you have a taller skateboard wheel, it'll kind of roll over those things. So same thing happens on the taller tires on these. For off-roading, you get a little bit taller ground clearance and a little bit better traction, because when it's taller, there's more tire touching the ground. If you guys didn't know that, taller and wider, both of those things will help give you more traction, believe it or not. So now let's talk about some of the downside. One of the downside is something called bump steer. Okay, and a lot of guys are going to say, no, I don't get that. Yes, you do. You get bump steer with this, because what happens is, what bump steer is the center of your tire is here, and the more you have outside the center of your tire, if you can imagine, it's a longer bar. If you were using a pipe on a wrench, you can get more leverage when it's out further. So what happens is when your tire is wider, a wider access, okay, when you go over a bump, the leverage point from that, when it goes over a bump, actually makes your tire want to steer, so you get a little bit of wander going down the road when you hit bumps. One of the ways to correct that is go with a stiffer steering dampener, because when it bump steers, it wants to steer, it wants to go this way or that way, whatever it hits. So if this side hits a bump, okay, it's going to want to steer to the left. Okay, if that side hits a bump, it's going to want to steer to the right, and that's bump steer. It's from the tire. The leverage points out further, so when it hits a bump, it wants to steer. That's what bump steer is. So you get that. The other thing you get, you can correct that with, is a stronger steering dampener. So maybe you'll want to go to a Bilstein, which would help you quite a bit with with these tires. Keep you going down the road straight. Maybe not as much wander, but it still will bump steer a little bit even with those. So you'll feel it. It's tolerable. Another thing I forgot to mention on the positive side is cornering. Believe it or not, these actually corner better than the other tires. It's a little bit positive in going in a corner because the bump steer, so you get a little bit of a positive steer. It's almost, you barely have to move the steering wheel and it wants to turn. It's partly because these are light truck tires. If you get the ones that are light truck, they're going to have stiffer sidewalls, and that's going to make it want to steer more positive even though they're taller. So keep that in mind. Definitely handles around corners a little bit better with these tires. Again, this is going to be with all these, the all-terrains and these highway ones. It's not just pertaining to this one, it's the size, guys. But if you want to be sure that you're not going to have as much road noise, you can get these at Priority Tire. Has them. They're, like I said, they're really hard to find if you look for them. So these are called Tornell, cheap brand or whatever, but they work fine. I think I'm running these at like 36 pounds. I think they're rated up to 50 pounds of pressure, but I ran them at 36 just because it's a little softer ride. It's not, I'm not using all that sidewall weight, you know, so even at 36 pounds, they definitely have better handling. Another downside is they soak up some horsepower. So because they're larger and heavier than the other tires, that reciprocating weight, gyroscopic weight, helps slow your bus down a little bit. So you got to have a little more motor with these. I did lose a little bit of gas mileage with them too, because, you know, you think, well, I got a taller gear, but I also have more reciprocating weight and more gyroscopic weight, and that actually gave me a little bit worse gas mileage. So I lost a mile or so to the gallon, but again, it's worth it when it's quieter inside the cab. So I kind of weigh that out myself, and I thought it was a pretty good deal for that. So if you have a bus with stock transmission and you don't want to buy a new transmission right now, maybe your transmission is working really good and you just want to kind of help it get down the freeway a little bit better, these are a great way to give you a little bit better gearing. Okay, it's going to give you that taller gear. It's going to give you a little better traction. If you're doing any kind of off-road camping, it's going to help give a little more traction there. If you're, you know, there's a lot of pluses. Again, the minuses are pretty minor. Again, the bump steer, again, can be corrected somewhat with a steering dampener. A Bilstein one would be probably spot on. Maybe I'll end up doing that myself. I used to have a Bilstein one sitting around, but I don't know where it's at. That'd be nice to put on here and really test it. And I'm sure that would really help because the Bilstein ones are very stiff. So that might help you there. But overall, I'm going to say that these things are a huge plus. Okay, definitely worth it. These, if you're looking for the cheapest ones to buy, these ones are definitely the cheapest I could find. 27, 850, 15, 14. They're, again, they're on Priority Tire. They're also on Walmart.com. I found them on both. They were cheaper on Walmart at one time, and then they're cheaper on Priority now. So I don't know. Check the two against each other and try that, and have them shipped. What I did is I have them shipped to me. The shipping was free, okay? And then what I did is I actually put them on myself. Usually what I've been doing lately is I go to a little tire guy, one of the cheap little tire guys. There's a guy in Moreno Valley. His name is Pacheco Tires, real good guy there. He's pretty inexpensive. A lot of those guys have gone way up in price. So since they went way up so high in price, I decided to put them on myself. Save myself $100. They were wanting to charge to put these on, which I thought was ridiculous. And I just did it. I finally just decided to buy the Harbor Freight tire thing. I've been doing them by hand for years with the old tire irons, and just because it's easier to break the bead with this thing, I decided to get that. It's a little faster, so it's worth it. So anyway, that's how I do it. And if you're tired of the tire guys too, you can always buy one of those things, mount it on the concrete. Really makes a difference. Get yourself some anchors and a hammer drill and drill some holes, put the anchors in, and I just didn't know where I was going to put it, so I finally decided right there was okay. So anyway, that's it for that, guys. I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Hope that helps you if you're looking at these tires and thinking maybe I should do it, maybe not, and help you make that decision. Talk to you later.